Good evening. I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting for the City of Wheat Ridge, Colorado for Monday, January 9th, 2025. Would you please stand as you are able and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would the clerk please call the roll of the members?
Jenny Snell.
Present.
Scott Ohm.
Here.
Amanda Weaver.
Here.
Corey Stites.
Here.
Janice Hoppy.
Present.
Leah Dozman.
Here.
Dan Larson.
Here.
Rachel Holteen.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Councilors, in your packet tonight, you have City Council meeting minutes from May 12, 2025. Are there any corrections or changes to be noted in the minutes? Seeing none, we will let the minutes stand as prepared by the clerk with our thanks. Are there any changes to be noted in the agenda? Seeing none, we will proceed with the agenda as presented. We've got some proclamations tonight. And for our first proclamation, I would like to ask Councilor Jenny Snell to join me at the podium. Thank you. Good evening. This is a proclamation on National LGBTQIA+ Pride Month, June 2025. Whereas the City of Wheat Ridge cherishes the value and dignity of each person and appreciates the importance of equality and freedom. And whereas all are welcome in the City of Wheat Ridge to live, work, play, and every family deserves a place to call home where they'll feel safe, happy, and supported by friends and neighbors. And whereas the city denounces prejudice and unfair discrimination based on age, gender identity, gender expression, race, color, religion, marital status, national origin, sexual orientation, or physical attributes as affront to our fundamental principles. And whereas during lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex LGBTQI+ Pride Month, we reflect on the progress we have made as a nation in the fight for justice, inclusion, and equality, while affirming our commitment to do more to support the LGBTQI+ rights. And whereas today the rights of LGBTQI+ Americans are under relentless attack, and many of these individuals continue to face discrimination and cruel, persistent efforts to undermine their human rights. And whereas, despite being marginalized, LGBTQI+ people continue to celebrate authenticity, acceptance, and love. And whereas, we appreciate the cultural, civic, economic contributions of the LGBTQI+ community, which strengthen our social welfare. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Bud Starker, Mayor of the City of Wheat Ridge, and the Wheat Ridge City Council, do hereby declare the month of June 2025 as LGBTQI+ Pride Month. I would like to give this to you. Would you like to say a few words? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I am so grateful to be able to stand up here and accept this proclamation. Before I get too into this, do we have any members of our IDEA committee here? I feel like if I stare out into the crowd enough, I'll see you, but perhaps not, and that's okay because we're all doing important work. First of all, happy Pride Month. I'm so proud of our city and our continued efforts to support all of our community members, our queer members, our Black members, our differently abled folks, and our IDEA committee that is newly formed, newly seated, is doing that work. And I'm so grateful to my colleagues on council who listened when the community asked for us to do that work. We started with the Race and Equity Task Force, and one of the recommendations of that was to form the IDEA Committee, which we have. And there's some fantastic people on that, and they're doing great things. We are setting the bar really high in Wheat Ridge, and people are noticing. We're doing it the right way. We are looking at policy. We're looking at our city charter. We're looking at how everyone in our community can feel safe and respected and can just carry on with life. But now's not the time to take our foot off the gas. Members of our queer community are facing broad legislative attacks against rights. They're facing a lot of violence, and it's apparent and it's troubling. Really close to home, Jax Gratton, a transgender, very beloved hairdresser, her body was just found this past weekend. There is a vigil for her this evening. Probably a reason why a lot of our folks are not here. They're there, lending support and celebrating the life of Jax. We're not even halfway through Pride Month, and we have already experienced things that no one should experience. I want to leave you with this. I'm mostly talking about adults, and I know because I'm an adult. I've been through some tough times, but our queer and trans youth are really, really what I'm concerned about. And the Trevor Project, which is an amazing organization, did a study last year in 2024, and almost 40% of youth who identify as any part of the community, LGBTQIA+, almost 40% of them seriously considered committing suicide. And then the percentage of youth who identify as trans, that's higher. And so I just encourage you to throw out those statistics, not as a downer, it's a reality. And I just really encourage you to just be kind. I mean, we have a lot of hard stuff going on right now. And so I'm so grateful to be in Wheat Ridge. I'm grateful to be in a city that supports me and my wife and my family, my 3 4-legged children. I'm so grateful to my counselors for their support, and I look forward to what we can do. We're going to do a lot of good stuff. So thank you so much.
I would like to invite Kelly McLaughlin up and her team with us. You all can come on up. This is a proclamation in support of the safety team and National Safety Month. So great to have you all here. Hi, how you all doing? Good. Come on, make a nice little circle here so we can get everybody in. So proclamation for National Safety Month, June 2025. Whereas National Safety Month focuses on reducing the leading causes of injury and death at work, on the roads, and in our homes and communities, and drawing attention to safe practices that will decrease the likelihood of accidents. And whereas all community members deserve to live in communities that promote safe and living environments. And whereas safe communities require the cooperation of all levels of government, business, and industry, employees, as well as the public. And whereas, through the support and observance of National Safety Month each year, employers are helping to reverse an increase in accidental injuries and deaths in the workplace. And whereas, the city supports safety efforts and has taken proactive steps to provide a safe and healthy work environment for its employees by supporting the Be Safe Safety Committee. And whereas, the city works to prevent accidental injuries by educating employees about safe and healthy practices in the workplace through training and encouragement. And whereas the beginning of the summer season, traditionally a time of increased accidents and injuries, is an appropriate time to focus attention on risk management and prevention. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Bud Starker, Mayor of the City of Wheat Ridge, and the Wheat Ridge City Council do hereby declare the month of June 2025 as National Safety Month and urge all community members to establish and maintain safe practices in their homes, workplaces, and communities. Dated this 29th day of June, 2025. And would you like to say a few words? Thank you.
All right, as you all know, this is like my favorite day of the year because I get to come up here and brag on this amazing group of people every year. So this is about half of our safety committee. Whitney Mugford Smith, who is from Administrative Services, so she's also a procurement manager. Sarah Heisdorfer, who is from Recreation, she's our aquatics manager. Everybody knows Bruce, facilities guy extraordinaire, who also happens to chair our safety committee. We've got Phil here, he's one of our community service officers. We also have a couple of folks in Public Works that aren't here, another rec person, so we're all across the city. And this group does so much, I just can't even begin to tell you all about it. So in the last year, just a few ideas. They rewrote the emergency plan for the city. Then they did evacuation drills at all city facilities. Some of you counselors might have got to be part of those. They do the content for our Safety Shot newsletter, which is a safety newsletter that we send out to the entire city. We also hang them in all the bathroom stalls for some light reading. They establish and deploy all the safety trainings we do citywide every month. They created a naloxone policy last year. They trained the city on it, and they worked with our PD staff to actually get naloxone in all of our city facilities. So it's a huge life-saving measure that we have now. They got emergency alarms and panic buttons installed in all of our city facilities. And they work with our PD department to do Stop the Bleed trainings and workplace violence trainings. And to be honest, they just help me with administrative work, like they help me with all the stuff for our audits and for all of our renewals. And all of their hard work obviously translates into a safer city and safer staff. But I think people don't appreciate that it also translates into financial savings for the city, because we have lower work comp rates and we have lower property claims than most of our counterparts. Therefore, we save a lot of money on deductibles and we save money on premiums. But the thing they're really, really good at is they are party planners extraordinaire. So we will be having our third annual safety soiree this year on June 18th at Prospect Park. We bring in pancakes and coffee, and the city staff comes out and they go through safety tables. They get to interact with our insurance vendors. So it's a great time, and it has turned into this great activity for the city. So I'm so proud of them for all of that. And finally, we would be really remiss if we didn't thank all of you. We all know that safety starts from the top down. And if the council, mayor, if our EMT did not appreciate how important this is, we wouldn't have the backing to do what we do. So a huge thanks to you guys during Safety Month as well.
Thank you. All right, let's get a photo. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. But first, before we do our picture, Kelly, get up here. I'm absolutely mortified. So I'm thrilled to announce, you all know that CIRSA is, I can't say it in American, but CIRSA is our insurer. So Kelly McLaughlin has won CIRSA's Safety Champion Award for her work on risk management in 2024. Yeah. As you know, Kelly is the city's first professional that's dedicated to risk management. We're very thankful to you for granting us that position 2 years ago. She started in 2023. I'm going to talk a little bit about what she's done in 2024. In addition to really supporting the work of the safety committee and re-energizing the safety committee, she led a thoughtful, impactful update to the city's driving policy. She spearheaded a major update to our emergency alarm system, dialed in our claims management process, and she really trained staff on proper documentation techniques that protect us, protect our governmental immunity. I know Jerry's grateful for that. And she proactively pursues restitution when our property is damaged. Again, she's really revitalized the city safety committee. She's found unique and fun ways to get risk management and safety content in front of our employees. And she's also taken over ADA coordination for the city, which has been huge. So thanks to her leadership, we are safer, we are more resilient, and we are more engaged in risk prevention than ever before. She and the safety committee have really infused our organization with a culture of safety. and we prioritize accountability, preparedness, and care for every member of our team. So congratulations, Kelly. Picture now.
Congratulations, Kelly, and if you had any more of those panic buttons, sometimes I need them in my line of work, so if you have any extras, I'll take them. Okay, thank you, guys. I have a proclamation for Juneteenth, June 19th, 2025. Whereas this nation was founded on the principles stated in the Declaration of Independence that, quote, all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but in which people who were black were held in slavery. And whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, which states that all persons held as slave within a state designated or part of a state, quote, shall be thenceforward forever free, changing the legal status of 3.5 million enslaved people who were black from slave to free. And whereas the Emancipation Proclamation paved the way for the 13th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, which formally abolished slavery in the United States of America. And whereas news of the Emancipation Proclamation did not reach the most distant slave states until federal troops arrived in Galveston, Texas on June 19, 1865, to take control of the state and ensure that all enslaved people be freed. And whereas the day of respect and remembrance called Juneteenth, a combination of the words June and 19th, is observed as an important day in our nation's history. And whereas Juneteenth commemorates African American freedom and slaves as a reminder and serves as a reminder faced by black people throughout our nation's history. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Bud Starker, Mayor of the City of Wheat Ridge, and the Wheat Ridge City Council call upon the City of Wheat Ridge to join us in recognizing Juneteenth. And I call on every person to celebrate Juneteenth and recommit to working together to eradicate systemic racism and inequality in our society, wherever they find it. Thank you. Now I'd like to turn the podium over to our Chief of Police, Chief Murtha. Thank you, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Officers of the Wheat Ridge Police Department, when we interview them for their commitment to the community that we live in. They're a special group of people who dedicate their lives to public service and doing good. Not every day in police work is a good day. Unfortunately, we have our challenges and our bad days sometimes. However, every 6 months I look forward to this night. This is a good night for me because I get to introduce the folks who have committed themselves to Wheat Ridge and the profession of policing. So tonight you're going to meet three of our three newest police officers who begin their field training. Have begun, I guess, today their field training and their administrative work today after graduating from the academy last Friday. So that includes a thorough background check that takes months, literally, to complete, 21 weeks plus in the academy of training, followed up by weeks and weeks and months of field training to get them to be a certified police officer on their own in the city of Wheat Ridge. So tonight you're going to get to hear from them. It's always a pleasure and an honor to introduce these young folks. I'm a little jealous because they're starting in a place where I wish I was now. But tonight you'll understand why we hired these people, I think, and get a little insight into who they are. So, Mackenzie?
Hi, everyone. I'm Mackenzie Jamison. I just wanted to share a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, so right down the street from everybody. I'm 23 years old. I have played softball my entire life, so I've always been an athlete. I actually played softball in college. I went to Northern Illinois University. I played there for a little bit, and then I transferred over to Metropolitan State of Denver. I played there for about a year and a half. After college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. School did not help me figure out my life at all. So I had a few different jobs trying to figure out what Mackenzie enjoyed doing outside of softball. And I went on a couple ride-alongs, and I absolutely loved the idea of police work. I interviewed here with Wheat Ridge, and I loved the community. I loved everyone that interviewed me. They made it very personable to me. As Chief Murtha said, it's a very long process. It takes a long time anywhere you go. It's very personable, and you don't know what's coming at you. You don't know who you're speaking to. And Wheat Ridge made it very easy and very, very wonderful. They hired me on early, so I actually started in October when our academy started in January. So I got a couple of months ahead of these folks over here. And I got to go to different departments and just see what police work was really about. And I got to see the backside of like investigations and, you know, our telephone reporting unit, things you don't really think about in police work. And it was just absolutely amazing. And I could not be happier to work here. So thank you all for having me. And I look forward to being a public servant.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Vaughn Jones. I grew up in Arvada. I went to Broomfield High School. I'm 26 years old. Throughout my high school and early 20s, I was working various jobs until 2019 when I joined the United States Marine Corps. I joined the infantry at the time, and I got sent to 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines. During my time in the Marine Corps, it was very tough, a lot of long, cold nights, sleeping with a lot of, you know, just Marines outside roughing it, and it was one of the best things I ever did. Fortunately for me, I have an older brother. His name is Sean Jones. He is an officer with Wheat Ridge as well. And upon my last year, back in 24 and 23, I was fortunate enough to come and do ride-alongs and meet all these great officers who just showed what Wheat Ridge was a professional department, a fun department, just something you just want to be around, something you want to be along with. And coming from the Marine Corps, there's a belonging part, you know, with just all those guys wearing the same uniform, that EGA meant something, and wearing this badge means something. Just how I wore the cloth of the country, it's a privilege to be able to wear the cloth of the Wheat Ridge Police Department, and I really thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that. Throughout my time, I deployed military Marine Expeditionary Unit to the Southeast Asia, got to explore countries like Sri Lanka, Thailand, and just got to see how the world is in different parts, especially where it's a little rough and not as accessible for water and things like that. So it was an eye-opener and made me grow a lot. So fortunately, when I was getting out last year, I applied in June and was fortunate enough to get selected as one of the few candidates here to go to the academy and represent Wheat Ridge well. And I hope I did that to my best ability. And once again, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. And I plan to give nothing but my 100% to everybody in this room. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Taylor Riley. Like Vaughn and Mackenzie, I'm also a Colorado native. I was born and raised in Northglen, Colorado, and I also graduated from Broomfield High School with Officer Jones over there. A little bit about me. I'm 25 years old. Prior to my time at the Wheat Ridge Police Department, I worked at Discount Tire for the last few years as an assistant manager, and I just realized that I loved working with people. I loved the mentorship. I loved, helping people in the community, addressing problem solving. I just really fell in love with it, but I knew I wanted more. My brother, who's actually an officer at Denver Police Department, District 1, encouraged me to look into policing, and I went on a ride along with Vaughn Jones's brother, Sean, and I fell in love with the city of Wheat Ridge, the police department, the culture. There was a really strong aspect of community there. it was really apparent how much the police department cared about the community and how much the community respected the police in return. And I just knew I wanted to be a part of that. I was lucky enough to be chosen as one of the few to attend the academy this winter. And I look forward to getting out into the community and serving all of you and doing my best for the community. Thank you.
We're glad to welcome you into our community. Look forward to your service. And I know that council members like to be in the photo for this. So if you all would please join council in front here. We'll grab a photo. We are now at our public's right to speak portion of our agenda. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the city council on any topic that is not on our agenda tonight. If you have signed up to speak tonight, I will call your name as well as the name of the next person on deck. When I call your name to speak, if you would please come to the podium, give us your first name and your last name, and if you would please spell your last name so we can try to get it right in the record. Please tell us whether you live or work in Wheat Ridge, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the council. In front of the podium on the clerk's desk are 3 lights. When you begin to speak, the green light will come on. When you have 30 seconds left, it changes to amber. When the red light comes on, your time is done, and would you please step back? Council members have the right, but not the obligation, to address any comments that are made after the last speaker is finished. So I have 2 people signed up to speak in council chambers. Our first to speak is Julie Clark, and Taylor Tate is on deck.
Julie Clark, C-L-A-R-K, 39-year resident of Wheat Ridge. What else did you ask?
I think that's it.
Get all the things. So I came to speak about the pool because I tried to do the online survey, and I got to the end, and then it wouldn't go. So I decided I would come and say, yes, I want a pool in Wheat Ridge. I am 2 summers away from retirement, doggone it, and I want there to be a pool when I get there. I want the pool to have the slipper slide, because that's the best thing ever. And I would really, really love it if you would bring the diving board back. So I'm the youngest of 8 children. We went to the swimming pool 6 days a week because it was, cheaper than probably babysitting. So off we went, 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock every day at the swimming pool. I was one of the youngest people to get a lifeguarding certificate because all the older kids were doing it, and no way was my mom going to let me do that by myself. So I got to do it with the older kids. Was a lifeguard for a little bit of time. And that would also be something that would be really interesting to do, because I know they're always looking for lifeguards. I am quite certain I could still throw a ring to someone and haul them in, even in my 60s. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say was, yes, I want a pool. I don't want to have to go to Lakewood. I don't want to have to go somewhere else and pay. We're a big enough city, and we are that kind of little city. We should have a pool. We ought to be able to ride our bicycles too, and then come home hot, sweaty, and smelling of chlorine. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Taylor Tate.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Taylor Tate, T-A-I-T. And I also want to pool, but yeah. I'm here actually to represent Congresswoman Brittany Pedersen, and I wanted to talk about a couple things that are going on right now. The U.S. House of Representatives passed a Republican budget proposal at the end of May, and Rep. Pedersen voted against the bill. As it stands, this bill slashes Medicaid, guts food assistance programs, and raises health care costs for working families, all while adding trillions to the deficit to fund tax breaks for billionaires. This legislation would rip healthcare away from estimates of 13 million to 16 million Americans. While the bill is currently in Senate and many specific provisions will be subject to change, Rep. Pedersen and our office are monitoring the status of the bill, and we will continue to work the work of representing our district in Washington. Rep. Pedersen is hosting a pinning ceremony to recognize Vietnam War era veterans who served in the U.S. Armed Forces during the period from November 1955 to May 15th, 1975, regardless of the location or service branch. I just need to see a DD 214, and we would love to honor our veterans. If you have any questions, please reach out to our office. Our office continues to work for all of our constituents, and as of today, we have saved $4.5 million for the people of Colorado's 7th Congressional District. If you're experiencing difficulties with the federal government, whether it's the EPA, DOD, IRS, or any federal agency, please reach out to our office at 303-274-7944. Thank you.
Mr. Tate, thank you, and please express our best wishes to the councilperson. Okay, and we had no one online, so that's all of the speakers we have for our public's right to speak. We will now go to our first agenda item. This is our consent agenda. Councilor Hoppe, would you please introduce this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Consent agenda item 1A, Resolution 31-2025, a resolution amending the 2025 Public Art Fund budget to reflect the approval of a supplemental budget appropriation in the amount of $250,000 for the purpose of funding public art associated with the Youngfield Beautification Project. At issue, the public art associated with the Youngfield Beautification Project was budgeted in the Public Art Fund in 2024. Because the contract was not awarded until 2025, the funds were not carried forward into the 2025 budget. This resolution will amend the 2025 Public Art Fund budget to fund this project as planned. Consent agenda item 1B, resolution number 32-2025, a resolution amending the fiscal year 2025 Open Space Fund budget to reflect the approval of a supplemental budget appropriation in the amount of $254,299 for the purpose of accepting Colorado State Forest Service grant in the amount of $380,350. At issue, the Colorado State Forest Service awarded the city a reimbursement grant of $380,350 for the forestry work through October 31st, 2025. To invest the funding and subsequent request and receive reimbursement, this budget appropriation is required.
Thank you. This is our consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve item 1A and 1B?
I move to approve consent agenda items 1A and 1B.
We have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please poll the council?
All ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Thank you. We will now go to agenda item number 2. Councilor Ohm, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mayor. Council Bill 08-2025, an ordinance amending Chapter 26 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws regarding freestanding emergency departments. At issue, the city received a request from HCA Health One LLC and its affiliate HCA Health One Rose to amend the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws to allow for freestanding emergency departments in the city and for the development of a medical campus at the northwest corner of 38th Avenue and Wadsworth Boulevard.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on second reading. It is a public hearing. It is not quasi-judicial. I'm going to open the public hearing, and I would like to recognize our attorney, Mr. Dahl.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As was noted by Councilmember Ohm, this is a legislative matter, not quasi-judicial. Actually, you recognize that. And for that reason, I wanted to make a very quick little record around the council's action on legislative matters, because what the council's doing here, if this ordinance passes, is amending the city's code. And I distinguish that from what you're very familiar with, quasi-judicial matters, where the council takes up an application from a specific property owner for approval for use of a particular property. I recognize that if this ordinance passes, it will make certain properties eligible for certain uses under the code, but nevertheless, the ordinance itself is legislation. It amends the code. It is not a site plan, a rezoning application for an individual property. And for that reason, because it's legislative, the analysis that we often go into to determine whether there's a financial interest or some kind of bias isn't as applicable because, again, it's legislation. And when we have legislation, we bring everything that we have in our background to that table, as is always true for legislation, especially at the state level, as we see. So tonight, what I'd like to do is just do a little question and answer with Councilmember Dozeman, who does work for Intermountain Health, which is a health provider that would be implicated by the measure, as many others would be affected. I want to be able to establish a record that concerns her ability to vote. So with that little preliminary, Councilmember Dozeman, I appreciate your indulgence in letting me ask you a couple of questions, make a little record here. It's true that you work for Intermountain Health, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that's along with 100 or so other people. I'm not quite sure how many people work for Intermountain.
The largest employer of Wheat Ridge.
Okay, largest employer, thank you. What do you do exactly for Intermountain Health? I think we know, but.
I'm a philanthropy officer for the Lutheran Hospital Foundation.
Terrific, thank you. And can I ask you if your salary or your position would be affected positively or negatively, no matter whether this ordinance is adopted or not adopted?
No.
Okay. That's the Q&A. And council members, again, I'd say that for legislation, your job background, et cetera, is not a determining factor for a council member's ability to vote. I'd also say that the charter says that council members all vote on every matter unless there is a conflict that the council establishes. And you have the right to do that, but it will take a motion, and all of the remaining members, other than Councilmember Dozeman, would vote on that motion to not allow her to participate, and that motion would have to pass unanimously in order to preclude her from participating. So the default rule is you all vote on everything unless, and that unless has to be established by the council by a vote of unanimously of the remaining members. So that's the record I would make. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from Mr. Dahl? Or any motions from the floor? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Dahl.
Thank you.
We will continue with our public hearing. Mr. Goff, do you have a staff presentation on this item?
We do, Mayor. Thank you. Lauren Mikulak, our Community Development Director, will make that presentation.
Director Mikulak.
Thank you. As noted in the issue statement read by Councilmember Ohm, this ordinance tonight originates from a request by HCA Health One. Much of what they've proposed for the intersection of 38th and Wadsworth is permitted by the underlying zoning. Medical offices are permitted use at that location and in all of the city's commercial and mixed-use zone districts. The component of their proposal that requires amendment of the city's municipal code is related to emergency departments. And it was about 10 years ago that the city created a moratorium and ultimately ended up prohibiting freestanding emergency departments. At that time, you may recall there were concerns across the state about operators and billing practices, and ultimately the state legislature got involved. In 2019, state law changed, and what we now see, particularly in the metro area, is that most freestanding ERs are operated by the area's major healthcare providers. The ordinance before you tonight responds to Health One's request, and it's the result of a policy discussion that took place at a city council study session on March 3rd earlier this year. Based on council's consensus and direction from that meeting, the ordinance creates a limited allowance for emergency departments that are not attached to a hospital. So under the revised code that you have before you tonight, the definition of freestanding emergency departments is modified, and the use would be allowed in limited conditions. There's essentially 4 limitations. It would be a conditional use only in the mixed-use commercial zone district on a property at least 5 acres in size and co-located with other medical uses. So the purpose of that approach was to allow freestanding emergency departments, but in a limited way, limit proliferation, and essentially require that be part of a sort of a mini medical campus when they're not otherwise a part of a hospital. Before I wrap up, I should note that we did receive 4 comments on Wheat Ridge Speaks. One referenced an attachment that unfortunately was not ultimately attached, but the other 3 were opposed. And that's all I have for staff comments. Thank you. Oh, you did.
I was just going to note that attachment was emailed to us, and that's on in front of your seats.
Okay, thank you. Before I go to questions from council, I would like to open this up to members of the public. I have about a dozen people who are signed up to speak, so when I call your name, if you would please come to the podium, and similar to public's right to speak, please introduce yourself. Give us your first name, your last name. Please spell your last name for the record. And I'm going to butcher a few of these, so I hope you'll correct me in that. And we have more than a dozen people signed up, so if you'd please limit your comments to about 3 minutes. The clerk will have some timing lights, so just recognize that when the red light comes on, please conclude your remarks. Our first speaker is Homi Kapadia. Is that pretty close? Come to the podium, please, and let me hear how it's really said. You may adjust the mic so that it fits your perfect stature.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, and staff. My name is Homi Kapadia, last name Kapadia. And I'm an emergency physician. I've been practicing emergency medicine here in Wheat Ridge for 21 years. I'm joined by my colleagues here tonight, and we oppose the lifting of the moratorium on freestandings here in Wheat Ridge. We also wanted to highlight the potential dangers of lifting the moratorium. Like all things, freestanding emergency departments have their place, but they also can have harmful effects on the community. They work well in underserved areas. But in areas where there is other options, they can be harmful. And the reasons they can be harmful is because they're unable to care for serious medical conditions like heart attacks, strokes, serious traumatic injuries, a long list of pregnancy-related complications and emergencies. Patients must be transferred from these facilities to a full-service hospital to receive definitive care. This delay can lead to worse outcomes, and it always leads to higher cost. Sometimes these transfers are across town, and that is not a patient-centered approach. Often, patients don't know the difference between a freestanding emergency department and a full-fledged hospital-based emergency department. And they also don't know when they will need to be transferred. In Wheat Ridge, I'll say that it's a certainty that a freestanding emergency department will create more healthcare confusion and lead to delays in patient care if this moratorium is lifted. Now, Intermountain Health does own a freestanding emergency department in North Glen, and that site was open because it makes sense in that area and for that demographic of patients. SEL Health, now Intermountain Health, was asked to build a facility because at the time there were no other facilities or options for the community. That is not the case here in Wheat Ridge. We recognize that some may think that we're opposed to lifting the moratorium because of financial reasons or to decrease competition. That is false. Our opposition is focused on patient safety, timely care, and affordable care for the Wheat Ridge residents. In closing, I want to say that we thank the council for your commitment to protecting the health and well-being of Wheat Ridge residents. And it's important that everyone understand that maintaining the moratorium on freestanding emergency departments is not about limiting access. It's not about decreasing competition. It's about safeguarding our community. And that's from healthcare confusion, from delays in life-saving care, and from high healthcare costs. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Douglas Martell, and I have Jessica Telesco on deck.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, and staff. Douglas Martell, M-A-R-T-E-L. I actually live in Ken Carroll, but I practiced medicine in Wheat Ridge for 30 years. I retired about 3 years ago. I was an interventional cardiologist. I've come to express my opposition to our freestanding ED. A freestanding ED is not a real hospital-based ED. It cannot and does not provide the same level of care as a real hospital ED. But many of your constituents, which are elderly here in Wheat Ridge, will not understand that. When I was a practicing interventional cardiologist, that's doing angioplasties and stents with acute heart attacks, we had a mandate for a 30-minute intervention from the time they hit our emergency department to get them into the cath lab and get the culprit artery opened, which minimizes the amount of heart muscle damage. A heart attack patient showing up to a freestanding ED will never meet a 30-minute deadline. They will have to call an ambulance at an additional cost, transfer them to a real hospital ED at additional cost, and then get them up to the cath lab. And delay in the intervention in heart attacks has worse outcomes and can even increase the risk of death. The same argument can be made for stroke patients. Acute intervention in stroke patients is now the standard of care, and Lutheran does an excellent job in that regards as well. So hopefully a freestanding ED, if a patient shows with a heart attack or a stroke, will send them to the closest hospital. Federally, they have to do that. And I say hopefully because realistically, the whole purpose of a freestanding ED in any community is to draw patients away from the community to the hospitals in their system, which their hospitals are a good 20 miles away. And so your elderly patient that may show up for a gallbladder operation gets transferred down to Swedish. Now their family members have to transfer to Swedish. Follow-up care is Swedish, and everything is out of Wheat Ridge. So if you want to keep excellent care in your community and protect your constituents, I would strongly recommend opposition to a freestanding ED. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jessica Telesco and Chantel Coburn on deck.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, and staff. My name is Jessica Telesco, T-E-L-E-S-C-O. I have worked in Wheat Ridge for the past 23 years as a nurse, and most recently as a nurse practitioner. I've come this evening to express my opposition to putting a freestanding ER in Wheat Ridge. Lutheran Hospital Intermountain is a certified comprehensive stroke center. That's not just me putting a description to say we provide comprehensive care. We are certified by a certifying body. That means we can provide the highest level of care for all comers of stroke, whether it's minor or, unfortunately, stroke can be quite severe. The same cannot be said for a freestanding ER. As Dr. Martell mentioned, they are not able to treat all levels of stroke, and that will be a detriment to our community. You may have heard the phrase, time is brain. We teach people to be fast. Not only is that the mnemonic to recognize stroke signs and symptoms, but it's also the action we want them to take should stroke signs and symptoms be recognized. We want them to call 911 and get to a hospital that can provide the full level of care. In 2021, researchers at the International Stroke Conference shared information, our findings from 7 international stroke studies. This showed that for every 1 hour of delay in hospital care, that equated to 11 months of healthy life lost. This is a study from hospitals that are already providing that highest level of stroke care. So if we were to extrapolate that information and talk about the delays that we would see in transferring somebody from a freestanding ER to a hospital that can provide that full level of care, I don't even want to imagine the healthy life that is being lost. I think I speak for myself again, or so again, 1 hour delay is almost 1 full year. And so I think I speak for myself and all the multidisciplinary team that it takes from my hospital, from nurses, physicians, radiologists, imaging technologists, phlebotomists, the spiritual care team, the care managers, everybody, the technicians, they all want the best for our community, and that is to keep the moratorium and allow them no confusion and to come to the hospital that can provide that highest level of care. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chantel Coburn with Carol Thomas on deck.
Hi, I'm Chantel Coburn. It's Cobourn. I've lived in the city of Wheat Ridge for 54 years. I've worked for 27 of those years in the city of Wheat Ridge. I do oppose this freestanding emergency department. Most of Wheat Ridge is senior citizens. 65% of them are seniors. And they do not understand the difference between an emergency department that's a freestanding versus the one that's at a hospital. Most of them are admitted for 1 day. So they're going to incur more charges from the emergency freestanding and go into emergency department. If you don't send them to somewhere in the city of Wheat Ridge, the ambulance doesn't take them, then those people, those seniors are going to have to drive really far away in cities they don't even understand. They don't know how to get there. They don't know where they're going. And I think that's very selfish and I don't think it's right to do that to our citizens of Wheat Ridge, to make them go outside of Wheat Ridge when we have, there's already a hospital there. They need to go there. They know where it's at. They know how to get there. 38, 2 lanes. That's it. They don't need all of that. You need to take care of your citizens. And Wheat Ridge needs to take care of them. And they're not with this freestanding. They don't understand it. They'll think, oh, I can go there if I'm having a heart attack. Well, that's probably just to be seen as another hour. And that's taking life off. It's not fair. And I don't think this is right to do to our seniors. I've been here 54 years, and it's not right to do to them.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Carol Thomas and Aaron Newschultz on deck.
Hi, my name is Carol Thomas, Thomas. I am the nursing supervisor at Lutheran for the last 15 years. And my colleagues have already said all the reasons why it's unsafe for people to go to freestanding instead of a regular hospital. But I actually had a neighbor who was in the 80s who came over one night, late at night. His wife was very sick, and he was so confused. He had no idea whether to go to the hospital. He had no idea where to go to urgent care. And I laid down what everything meant, and he chose to go to Lutheran Hospital. And I want you to know that we are open for the community 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We don't close our doors when we're really busy, mainly because our president, Andrea Burt, feels that Wheat Ridge has been so supportive of Lutheran, and we need to be supportive of the citizens of not only Wheat Ridge, but all of our patients. So I just feel that I think that we need to think about our residents and the care and the kind of care that they need, and the best place to get it is Lutheran. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron, you're up next. And Jeff is on deck.
Thank you. My name is Aram Newschatz, Neuschatz, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I've practiced at Lutheran for the last 22 years now, and my colleagues and I at the hospital care deeply about our patients, and we want the same care for them as we have for our own family members. That's very important to us. I have 3 main concerns about this freestanding ED proposal, and especially freestanding EDs in general. The first is about quality of care is my biggest concern. Every patient who goes through a freestanding emergency department who's ill enough to be admitted to the hospital, which is what I do, is going to experience a delay in care. That delay could be inconvenient at best or dangerous at worst. I've cared for dozens of patients in my career who started out at a freestanding ED. They had no idea what that meant. they had a serious condition and they were transferred to the hospital and suffered as a result. Their outcomes were worse, their illness was worse. That's just not fair. We shouldn't do that. This is not a resource-poor metro area, and so there are lots of hospitals around. If one of my patients who I care for prefers to go to St. Anthony's, that's fine. That's an excellent hospital with colleagues that I know. This is not a Intermountain Health versus Common Spirit competition issue. This is about deceptive marketing, I believe. A freestanding emergency department is not a hospital. My second concern is financial. Urgent cares are much less expensive than hospitals. Freestanding EDs are not. If you go to a freestanding emergency department, you are going to incur a big charge from the facility and then a transport charge from the ambulance. And for seniors in Wheat Ridge on a fixed income, that's just not fair. That's a lot of money. The seniors that I take care of in Wheat Ridge are probably not going to declare bankruptcy. They're just going to pay the bill and suffer as a result. I just don't think that's reasonable. And the last part is about convenience, especially for older patients. So I've had lots of older patients who started out at a freestanding ED, got transferred to another hospital, and then their family members have to drive all that distance to get there, and that's also not reasonable. So for that reason, I just don't think that's the care we'd want for our family. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jeff, and Julie Clark is on deck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Jeff Bontrager, B as in boy, O, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom, R-A-G-E-R. I, like Dr. Neuschatz, I'm a physician, I'm a hospitalist. I've been at Lutheran since 2011, so nearly 14 years. I live in Golden. I'm board certified in internal medicine and pediatrics, so I'm mostly a hospitalist at Lutheran. I do a little bit of pediatric ER at Children's. I've been there for about 13 years as well. So I have a vantage point on both sides of the ER spectrum. Many of my points have already been shared, so I'll try not to duplicate. Primarily, my concerns are clinical. When I think stroke, I think time is brain, and 15-minute intervals matter, whether someone is going to be disabled or able to live on their own, whether they need help or whether they can go back to work. Just today at Lutheran, I was admitting, so that meant these folks right here, they're giving me a call when someone's too sick to go home. And I try to see them, the patient, pretty quickly, as long as it takes me to review the chart quickly and go down and see the patient. And if it's a stroke patient, the neurologist is already aware of what's going on. And maybe they've spoken with the neurointensivist who's in the intensive care unit, who maybe has already looked at the images with the interventional radiologist who would go after a clot if the patient's appropriate. And all this is happening very quickly. The wheels are greased because this is a stroke center. We've been doing this for a long time and really work on our processes. And the one thing I haven't heard yet said is in my same role, I'll get calls from freestanding emergency departments, and I'll have similar conversations, accept those patients. I'm not seeing them in 7 minutes. It might be an hour and a half or two until they show up on the floor and I go track them down. And it's just the reality of that process. If I'm, or my loved one, or my mother-in-law or father-in-law, if they're having a stroke, we're not going to a freestanding emergency department when there's all these hospitals. Would I go if I'm in rural, underserved? Of course, if that's my choice. But I think it's confusing. Being in an emergency department, it can be confusing. Where there's an urgent care and emergency side, and patients come in, and if they come in 15 minutes later, they get charged 1/10. You know, there's nuance, and someone working in the system, you can kind of understand that. I just feel like it gets confusing for patients. These reasons I'm opposed to the freestanding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Julie Clark and Valerie Hartford on deck.
All right, it's me again, Clark, C-L-A-R-K. First, I'm going to tell you a funny story. So I've been married 17 and a half years, and from before my husband and I were married, it seemed like every holiday, one of us would do something, and we ended up in the emergency room or a clinic. It was every other. And so it has been my turn for a very long time because he's way ahead of me on having to get whatever. It's usually cuts and stuff. 7 people went before I'm speaking here. 3 of them decided that the residents of Wheat Ridge aren't smart enough to figure out when they need to go to a hospital emergency room and when they maybe need to go to a freestanding clinic because they need stitches. That level of arrogance doesn't surprise me, but it's disconcerting to me. And I think when Intermountain Health is sending things in the mail, one, to thank me for helping them do the future of Wheat Ridge. I don't know why they're paying for that. And the other one encouraging you all to vote no. I would believe you that you think it's about patient care, but I think it's also about competition. And when your biggest employer in your city is asking you to keep the competition out by law, perhaps you should do the opposite. I don't think people are idiots. I think if they are having a stroke or a heart attack, they're going to go to the hospital. I will tell you 100%, when the Little Sisters of the Poor still owned Lutheran, I told my husband, if you need to take me to the ER, take me to Denver General. I am not giving my money to the nuns. 12 years, Catholic school, right here. Not doing it. And now I hear there's a spiritual care team at Lutheran Hospital. I think I'll still tell my husband, take me somewhere else, except to Lutheran Hospital. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Valerie Hartford, and I have Aaron Weingart on deck.
Hi, my name is Valerie Hartford, Hartford. I'm not a resident of Wheat Ridge. I'm the manager of nursing operations at HCA Health One Rose. I proudly called Evergreen my home for the past 13 years. I regularly travel down the mountain to do the majority of my shopping and my errands in your guys' community. 10 years ago, I had my 4th child at Rose. At that time, I was a nursing student completing clinical rotations across various hospital systems. From the moment I stepped into Rose, I could tell it was different. The collaboration between the doctors and nurses, the compassion in every interaction, and the exceptional care I received as a patient left a lasting impression on me. That experience inspired me to become a nurse at Rose, a role I've now held for the past 8 years. Every day I drive an hour each way from Clear Creek County, passing 7 other hospitals because of the culture and community I have found at Rose. It's more than a workplace, it's a family. Our leadership team is incredibly supportive of both clinical and essential staff, and the environment fosters excellence in patient care. Rose has shaped me both personally and professionally. It's where I receive life-changing care, and now I have the privilege of giving that same level of care to others. Thank you for the opportunity to attend another city council meeting and for your thoughtful consideration of the proposed freestanding emergency department. I can assure you that our team and our hospital are committed to serving your community with the same dedication and excellence that have defined Rose for many decades. We won't disappoint you. I'd like to share a quick patient story. My 3-year-old daughter fell out of bed in the middle of the night and cracked her head wide open. We took her to the Rose Central Park freestanding ER, and they got her in within minutes. The doc and nurses were amazing. They clearly had experience dealing with pediatric patients and were able to keep her relatively calm. I had packed snacks expecting there to be all night, but we were in and out within 45 minutes. While I hope we don't ever have to go back, I know that if we do, we will get great care. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Adam Weingart and Gary Byskovich on deck.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. Adam Weingart, Weingart. I'm the Chief Medical Officer at Rose. I've lived in Denver since 1997 and been practicing as an anesthesiologist for better part of a decade and a half, about 15 years. Throughout my professional career, I had the opportunity to work at every health system in Denver, all the way north, St. Anthony's North, to the south side of Castle Rock. So every system, Common Spirit, Advent, HCA Health One, SCL, now Intermountain Health. I could tell you as I made my transition from the clinical side to the administrative side, it was very important for me to be at a facility that was patient-centric. And that's what HCA Health One Rose is all about. There's an ethos that exists and that is centered around the patient at all times. Harkens back to the origination of Rose Medical Center under General Rose, the first facility in Denver to credential Jewish physicians, female physicians, Black physicians, and that has basically created an environment that people are accepting and they want to have the highest level of care. Currently at Rose, I know there was some comments about the quality that's distributed to the patients there. Number one in the entire system for infection prevention. We've gone 2 years without having what's called a central line infection, and 1 year without having a urinary catheter-associated infection. On the OB side, on women's health, leaders in things like postpartum hemorrhage, PCO6, which is something called newborn unexpected complications, and then some of our overall quality metrics, things like mortality and other complications. In the ED, Dr. Martell and Dr. Kapadia mentioned things like door-to-needle for stroke or PCI intervention for cardiac patients, sepsis POA or sepsis on arrival. Our facility and our ED docs and our nurses have the best track record in the entire city. And I say that because we're bringing a freestanding or intending to bring a freestanding ED to Wheat Ridge so that we can mimic that exact same environment that we have at Rose. Same docs, same nurses, same level of care. We want to double down on what we do well, and that's take care of the community and take care of those patients. And the way that we do it is, again, using this patient-centered focus that goes from our staff to the patients in the community, give them the access that they deserve, and allow us to treat people of Wheat Ridge. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Gary Bryskowitz and Casey on deck.
Mayor Starker, council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak. You're very close. It's Bryskowicz. Gary, and the last name is B as in boy, R-Y-S-K-I-E-W-I-C as in Charlie, Z as in zebra.
Never would have gotten it.
You were close. You were close. I'm the chief paramedic at Denver Health Paramedics. I've been in EMS for 34 years, been at Denver Health for 27 years, and I've been the chief for the past 10. Denver Health Paramedics is the busiest EMS system in the state of Colorado. In the course of the year, we're going to respond to 130,000 patients. To put that into perspective, you would have to take the second, third, and fourth busiest EMS agency in the state, combine those to handle the volume that we handle. Over the course of the year, those 130-ish thousand patient responses are going to translate into about 80,000 transports of patients. Now, to put that into perspective, Empower Field sets about 73,000 people. So next time you're at a Broncos game, look around and put into perspective that Denver Health Paramedics is going to take that entire stadium to hospitals in the course of the year. The challenge that we're faced with is a gap that's been created as hospitals are moving further away from the core of Denver. What we're faced with is over the past couple decades, we've had 3 hospitals actually move out of or away from Denver that has created gaps in our ability to respond to our citizens. We have performance metrics. Those performance metrics equate to responding to 90% of our calls within 9 minutes. Those are for life-saving emergencies. Because of the move of these facilities further away from the core of Denver, we've actually had to pull back and are not able to transport those to those facilities anymore because we can't meet our response time metrics. So the time it takes to get to that facility, if our crew is to receive another call, we don't meet our response metrics back to the city in time. As such, we've had to pull back, and rather than transporting to those facilities, we're now having to pull those resources into the core. I'm in support of the HCA Health One Rose freestanding ED because it's going to help a stopgap measure for us. And that is going to be for those low acuity, non-emergent patients. We need a place that we can take these patients that are in need of an emergency room when they call 911 because they don't have the answers at the moment. They know they're having a problem. They don't know how severe that problem is, or maybe they don't know where the resource is for them, so they call 911. The majority of those 80,000 calls that we do are actually non-emergent transports. And when we looked at a random sample of 100 transports to freestanding EDs that we went to, of those 100 transports, 0 of them were with lights and siren. Point behind that is, quite honestly, that our our trained professionals, our medical professionals, our paramedics are trained and smart and understand the difference between a life emergency and a non-emergent emergency. And in this case, I believe that this is going to have a significant positive impact on our Denver Health ability to respond to our community members because our units will be in service with the ability to use this facility. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Casey, and I'll let you do the last name.
Guber, Guber.
Never would have guessed that either. but
No
thank you.
worries. Casey Guber, CEO Rose. Great to see you guys. Little ironic, I have 5 Intermountain physicians at my house for dinner tonight because my wife is an Intermountain physician. So thank you guys for your service. You guys do a great job. I think we're really blessed to have really strong access to our community. And this is something that I view as a complementary resource to kind of meet some goals that we have in mind. I also want to thank you guys. It's been a year or two journey. So thank you guys for the conversation. Thank you for listening to the data. Thank you for taking the emotion out of it. I'm sorry that this it looks like a little political. That was not my intent. My intent is really to add value to your community from a health and access perspective. Just to kind of do a few reminders, and I think you guys have some packets there, a few patient testimonials, some renderings, some of our operational metrics, our commitment to quality, but really, this is to solve a few problems your community has right now. Gary mentioned there is a huge gap in emergency access right now in Wheat Ridge and Edgewater associated with the Lutheran move. I don't know why the move occurred. We can all hypothesize it was to get trauma volume, it was to prevent UC Health from coming into the area, whatever it may be, it still created a gap. And if you're coming from 38th and Wads, it's a 15 to 20 minute commute. And that is fairly long for an EMS provider or from a person receiving ED care. I also view this as a legacy project. This isn't just about ED care. This is about getting access to our entire system, whether it's Swedish Neuro Network, which is the best in the state, whether it's a pediatric hospital with Rocky Mountain Hospital for Children, whether it's Rose Babies, the biggest baby delivering hospital in the region, you are going to get a premier service offering through the health park. Additionally, and I think you guys have read the new Kaiser relationship, a lot of the Kaiser folks or people that have Kaiser benefits are about to have to change where they go to receive care, which is going to again create an access gap because Kaiser is moving away from Intermountain Health and has established a relationship with Common Spirit and HCA, including Rose Medical Center. Our goal is a fewfold. One, it's provide world-class care. I don't know if you guys know this, but there are 40,000 emergency visits that originate from Wheat Ridge. 60% of those leave Wheat Ridge for care. That means that they're not getting care at Lutheran. Additionally, when we deploy a freestanding ED or stand one up, it's staffed with a board-certified emergency physician 24/7, lab personnel, x-ray personnel, CT scanner, security, admissions, nursing, etc. It truly is a world-class operation to provide access for ED services. Not necessarily intended for stroke or high-level trauma, as the paramedics will help direct those, but a broken arm, an after-hours urgent care visit that they can't get into and don't want to wait in queue at a level 1 or level 2 trauma center. We've also addressed a few of your concerns. When it comes to our ED operations, you will see a physician in our freestanding ED in less than 5 minutes. We've proven that over and over with our existing freestanding ED. If you are being discharged to home, you will be out of our door in less than 60 minutes. If you are getting admitted into our hospital, it's less than 285 minutes. That is extremely efficient, fast, world-class care.
If you could.
Additionally, there were a few other.
Sort of wrap up.
I think there's a few other things that I just want to make sure I hit on. I do want to build something special with you guys. I want to create healthcare access for your community. I want to create options in a monopolistic environment right now. I want to increase tax revenue as we are for profit, and I want to create jobs in the city of Wheat Ridge. And I want to do this together, and I think I've shown that through my intent and our approach. I look forward to partnering with y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll check with the clerk. We had no one online, correct? That concludes our speakers speaking on this, so I will go to questions of council. Councilor Dozeman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this could be for staff or the applicant. What is the plan for all of the businesses in the complex that would be renovated? So there's going to be several displaced businesses.
Yeah, I'm happy to address that. We've actually started engaging the tenants. So a few of the medical tenants would like to stay within the health complex, and we would honor that. They may be relocated in the health complex, but we would honor that. I think items like CBD shop, liquor store, pizza, we would help them find additional locations outside of that complex if they need the help. And if they don't, they would need to relocate pending their lease term.
So what do you mean by help them relocate?
Our brokers are sitting in the back and have already engaged.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Larson?
Thank you, Mayor, and this is just a short question for staff. What we're looking at here tonight is we're amending the city code to change the description of freestanding emergency departments from something that is not permitted under the zoning code to a conditional use, which means it's not a use by right, but it is based on some conditions that would have to be met. My question is that during our study session discussion, as we talked about revising or amending the code to put freestanding emergency departments under the mixed-use commercial zone classification, that we consider mixed-use interstate as another possible use. And I see that under this is not affected during this amendment. So if you just very briefly kind of describe why that suggestion to include freestanding emergency departments as a conditional use in the mixed-use interstate zone section.
Sure. Mixed-use commercial interstate is a very similar zone district. It's specifically designed for properties within a certain distance of our interstate. We hadn't included that in the ordinance when we came to study session in March, and you're right, it was discussed at the time. I think my team's goal is to align regulations with policy goals, and it wasn't, my sense from the study session in March is that there wasn't a desire to expand where emergency departments would be allowed. I don't think that was part of the final consensus, and so that's why it's not part of the ordinance tonight.
Thank you. Councilor, Mayor Pro Tem Stites.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question, probably for staff on this. The northwest corner of Wadsworth is a fairly visible corner in the city of Wheat Ridge. What are we looking at as far as sales tax projections or revenue projections from a development like this?
Honestly, don't think we have those numbers. We don't, currently our Intermountain Lutheran is tax exempt, so we don't have anything to compare against really locally. So I haven't seen any sales numbers from Rose at this time, so I don't have an idea what the sales tax would be generated. There would be substantial initial use taxes from redevelopments. I believe I was told from Health One that the project would be close to 65 million to build out. So 3.5% times 60% of that is use tax. I don't know what that number is off the top of my head, but there would be substantial initial use tax. I don't know what the sales tax would be long term.
But there would be some sort of sales tax.
There would be, yes.
Thank you.
Councilor Hoppy. Okay. We'll go to Councilor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. Two questions for Director Mikulak. One is, how does this proposed use fit in with the city plan on that corner? And then the second one is, could you just describe the conditional, what those terms are that as it applies to this use?
Sure. So in our mixed-use districts, which originated as a recommendation from our city plan, we allow a wide range of retail and service uses. And so this would be in alignment with that zoning and intent. From a land use standpoint, planning and zoning standpoint, we're looking at the nature of uses and impacts. with the goal in our mixed-use districts to have variety. So when we look at the nature of use, we're wondering what is the use, what are the impacts? We're agnostic to specific businesses or operators, but the reason that we would use a conditional use permit is because there are sometimes uses that may or may not be compatible depending on the specific operations. And so in the code, we have specific criteria for conditional uses. I'm just pulling those up. Typically, they're looking at things like the context. So what are the adjacent land uses? Are the impacts over and above what's existing in an area? What are the noise impacts? What's the circulation impacts? For other types of conditional uses in the Wadsworth corridor include, for example, drive-throughs. And so in this particular case, what we'd be asking any operator of a freestanding emergency department is to help us understand where are passenger vehicles versus ambulances. In the case of Wadsworth and 38th, we've already seen an ER on 38th Avenue in the past, so the specific use related to ambulances wouldn't be, it's probably among our primary concern. That would be certainly something we'd be asking questions about. We'd be asking about hours of operation, sirens, things like that. So it's just an extra layer of review to understand the nature of the specific operation.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilor Weaver.
I know we're not looking at a plan, but with all of the construction that continues to go on Wadsworth, Director Mikulak, what do you think the in and out sort of ambulance traffic will sort of look and feel like? Will that be on 38th? Or would it be off of Wadsworth, or sort of what would be the expectation? Obviously, I know we're not looking at a plan, but
Sure.
as far as traffic flow is concerned.
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't have the specific answers for that use. Because it's a change of use, one of the things that would be required is a traffic study. Usually it starts with a trip generation letter. How many vehicles are coming in and out? How does that compare to the many commercial businesses that are there today? And then evaluating sort of what the pros and cons of access on Wadsworth and 38th could be. So given the size of the site at 5 acres and the current condition, I would expect that it may be possible to retain access on both Wadsworth and 38th. There's also some access easements or alleys that connect up to 39th. So fortunately at that location, we probably have some options, and we'd look at some traffic analysis to make a determination once we got to a site plan.
Okay, so you don't look at that corner and think this is going to be tough to. Additionally, I have no idea what it takes to think about ambulances coming in and out as
Sure.
well as traffic and.
Yeah, it's not a red flag for us right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this question is for the applicant, Mr. Gruber. My question is, have you done any initial projections on the number of new employment that will bring to that corner?
Yeah, we'd project around at least 35 for the freestanding ED. And then as we integrate clinics, depending on the clinic size, we'll scale up based on volume. So our intent is to bring some of the services like OB, pediatrics, potentially ortho into the community. We also have some really good urgent care relationships that are very interested in this as well, because they're wanting subspecialty care close to where they're seeing their patients. So,
And then from notwithstanding the freestanding, but with the accessory buildings around the area, how many like services / employment do you think will be in addition in that area?
I don't think I'm understanding the question.
Like how many other little like clinics or services are going to be in the wraparound kind of horseshoe piece that's on the back piece
Gotcha.
of the?
There's about 35,000 square feet. We already know the foot and ankle group wants to be a part of it with 6,000 square feet. Our typical OB clinic that we build out is about 3,500. Same with primary care. So I think you'll probably see, if this site works out, probably 6 to 7 additional clinics. You're welcome.
Before I close the public hearing and ask for a motion, are there any further questions of council for staff? I'm going to close the public hearing, and Councilor Ohm, may I have a motion on this item?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve Council Bill number 08, 2025, an ordinance amending Chapter 26 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws regarding freestanding emergency departments on second reading or published, and that it takes effect 15 days after final publication.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Counselor Hoppy. Is there discussion on the motion? Counselor Hulteen?
Thank you. I want to thank my colleagues for asking my questions before I could get my hand up. So I'm really focused tonight, really not on the applicant, but on whether we're lifting the current moratorium in the city. And a couple of things that, first of all, I've heard from a lot of people in the community, both in favor and against. I've heard some pretty wild stories from constituents in the last couple of days. And the thing that I've really thought about a lot in preparation, and these are things that came up in the comments. So first of all, I think choice is important, especially in healthcare. I'm personally under Kaiser, and so I'm one of the people who will be impacted by losing access to not being in network for the closest existing hospital next year. So for me, I'm just going to be upfront. For me personally, it makes a difference knowing that I will have access to emergency care. But I also have neighbors who are really passionate about having a choice, either because they've got different coverage or they have a different sense of what they want out of their care. One of our speakers tonight really pointed out, I know there is confusion. Healthcare is confusing. I have yet to interact with the healthcare system that it has not been confusing. Government is confusing. There's a lot of really confusing systems that are out there, but people are generally pretty savvy. And I think if there is a legitimate concern that's held in this community around that we have residents, whether it's because they're elderly or just haven't had enough experience, that are genuinely confused around what the differences are between an emergency room, a full service hospital, and an urgent care, then maybe that's something we as a city could do to do some education and outreach through our city communications so that we're helping to partner so people understand those differences. But I also took a look, somebody had requested city staff send all of us a list of the freestanding emergency departments in the metro area. And there was a list of 20, and they're operated by UC Health, Advent Health, Intermountain, Common Spirit, and Health One. So it is a thing that's happening across the metropolitan area. So the characterizations that we heard tonight about how detrimental they are is not reflected in how many of them are showing up to serve our communities. And 3 of those are actually within about 5 miles of Lutheran Hospital. So what I'm hearing tonight is everyone's concerned about patient care, but choice and options are important. So for that, I am going to be supporting removing the moratorium. I think I've heard the stories I've heard from my neighbors and constituents have been concerns around wait times, and options for out of care. So I'm just looking at my notes here. So I think those are the primary reasons for me that I think for Wheat Ridge, whether it's this applicant or another, and whether it's on the corner of 38th and Wadsworth or somewhere else, what I've really heard is that there's a need. And if the real concern is lack of patient education around what the different health services are offered, then that's something that maybe the local government, which can also be confusing to people, can partner with our healthcare providers in this community, which currently are Kaiser and Intermountain Health, and could be in the future inclusive of Health One, that we can do some partnership around that education so that consumers are making wise choices. So anyway, so I will be supporting lifting the moratorium. I do appreciate all the constituent engagement. I do really appreciate we care a lot about Lutheran, and we've worked really hard as long as I've been on council to be a good partner to Lutheran, to make sure that the choices they're making around their facilities are things that are good for them and good for our community. So I intend to move forward and still be a good partner to Lutheran, because you're a huge part of our city, both today and historically. But as far as it comes to healthcare access, I think choice is important. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll keep my comments relatively short. I just wanted to take ownership as one of the council members that that put the moratorium on freestanding emergency rooms 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it was a completely different story than what we're looking at now. And it was predatory practices, and we felt that, and one of the very few times that we unanimously of that particular council agreed on something, and when I say one of the very few, I mean maybe three. This was one of them. And it was because we felt like we needed to protect our community. We're now in a place where there's new legislation, there's new rules and laws around it. It's not a new shiny penny, so people have more experience around them. They have family members who maybe don't live in our community who have experience around freestanding emergency rooms, and it's not the mystery behind the curtain anymore. I think that this is a good opportunity, an option for our community. Specifically for a lot of our community that utilize Kaiser. I think our teachers, our grocery workers, and those. And I'm for those reasons, I feel comfortable in removing something that I once voted to put in place.
Thank you. Counselor Dozeman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as one of the senior council members that was also around when we put the permanent moratorium in place because of the proliferation of them in our community, as the 20 within a 5 to 15 mile radius will attest to, including in Arvada, Lakewood, Denver, and I think that we put it in place for a reason. I supported it then, and I support keeping it now. The practices are still predatory, even though there are more regulations. And I think that our community has been served well for 120 years from the local Lutheran hospital. I've had 5 generations of my family cared for there, and I had both of my children there. My best friend had an experience at Rose that wasn't as amazing as some of these stories say, and I also chose to work there because of how amazing my family and I have received care from there. And in my job, I fundraise for a nonprofit hospital system, which differentiates from a for-profit health system, in that we are required to reinvest all of our money back into community benefit and our mission and vision, and that is directly correlated to patients that cannot afford care and to keep care affordable, which I do not feel freestanding emergency departments do. I don't consider people stupid necessarily, but my 85-year-old grandmother who lives in Lakewood and goes to Lutheran or St. Joe's, if a freestanding emergency room popped up on a corner, 6 or 7 blocks from her, then of course she's gonna either be taken there and potentially need to be transported for additional care, or go there because it looks like an emergency department, and it is also advertised as such, and it's a step above care from an urgent care at emergency room costs. And I think as a community who serves primarily senior citizens, I think that we put this in practice because we saw all of the cities around us allowing them in their community, and how difficult it was for people to navigate. And I still think that is the case, particularly for the demographic that primarily live in Wheat Ridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Larson.
And thank you, Mayor. I support approval to amend the city code to lift the moratorium on freestanding emergency departments. For the past month, we have watched the issue of freestanding emergency departments become publicized across social media and on postcards in our mailboxes. I have read with interest the for or against emails sent by our neighbors, even those that were cut and pasted from form letters. Communicating with our elected officials is a foundation of our democracy. After considering the plus and minus of maintaining this moratorium, I decided to support removal. As noted in the staff memo, Lutheran hospitals moved to the west side of the city, and recent regulatory changes impacting freestanding emergency departments, staff believes it is an appropriate time to reevaluate the moratorium. I concur and support removal. Amending the code means freestanding emergency departments will be restricted to a medical campus of at least 5 acres. This will preclude a freestanding emergency department from popping up anywhere else in the city. The intention expressed by Health One Rose to build out the northwest corner of 38th and Wadsworth is a welcome improvement and will greatly enhance the most important intersection in Wheat Ridge. And while Lutheran Hospital and its legacy remain a cornerstone of our city, the addition of a second emergency room will not degrade what is already available, nor will it harm the financial viability of such an established and capable institution.
Thank you. Counselor Snell.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. I wanted to thank the staff and thank everyone for the work. This has been a long process. And I also wanted to recognize our constituents who have reached out to us, who are very thoughtful and wanted to share their thoughts on this. That is, as Councilor Larson said, that is a right that everyone has. And I appreciate folks taking advantage of that and letting us know their thoughts, whether they're for or against it. I am happy to observe, I've lived in Wheat Ridge 11 years, and I'm happy to say that our city's growing. And we have new residents coming in, we have young families. And I do also agree with Councilor Hulteen that it is important to have choice when it comes to healthcare. So for that reason, I do look forward to having a relationship with Rose. I think that if this were another organization, I would probably have more questions. But I do appreciate the legacy that they have within the greater Denver area. So for that reason, I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. And I first also wanted to thank all the constituents and the speakers that have emailed. I haven't, unfortunately, I wish I would have had more people call me than the copy paste, but that's, what transpired. And, I looked at those, I've read those, and thank you, staff, for looking at this. Some of my concerns were, alleviated. I had concerns, because this is in my district, about noise and sirens, and those are things I asked early on. We had conversations about. I also wanted to, think about what is the future of that corner beyond just, having the freestanding emergency department. And I've been here a long time. I remember when the Go Forward site across the way, sat there for, it must have been 10 years. And so I'm very aware of, sometimes we need to have a good conversation. We need to be thoughtful and we need to kind of think about if, doing nothing, what is that going to yield us? And, hearing about, reinvestment of having some clinics and some urgent care. I know that urgent care is something that I had asked early on with this, and I've had some constituents ask about urgent care. It's unfortunate that, in a city of 32,000 that no urgent care exists, and I hope that we get some of those services in our city. And so, having said that, I think I'm definitely I'm gonna be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank all of the professionals that came in tonight to talk about what you do. That's one of the hardest things up here is understanding a profession that you don't do and trying to make a decision that's best for a community. So I really appreciate all of the ambulance professional, the doctors, the nurses, the administrators. It just really helps to hear all of those perspectives. And I'm going to explain how I feel. For me, and I will say, I've lived in North Denver, and I have come out to Lutheran, and then I bought a farm. Those of you who don't know me, I am the local farmer in Wheat Ridge, and so when I lived in Denver, Lutheran was my closest emergency room, and I came out here for stitches and things like that as I was redoing a 120-year-old house, and unfortunately waited a long time because it wasn't a true emergency. And in other times, after keeping bees for 10 years at my farm, I developed anaphylaxis and had to go to Lutheran when I really did need an emergency. And so I just want to make it clear that to me, this is not political about how much I have appreciated the care and the great care that I've received at Lutheran over the years. And I think there's great care throughout this area. And and it's also not really about choice for me either, though that is an aspect of it. I think there's a problem in our cities that I think we're all aware of, that there are wait times and that people don't know where to go for what thing. Do they go to an urgent care? Do they go to a freestanding ER? Do they go to a hospital ER? And those are things that we have to figure out as we move forward with all of these confusing medical choices that we have. It was really helpful to hear. And the thing I was really struck by tonight was the director of the ambulance, because I feel like, that's something that oftentimes it's our choice, but oftentimes it's the ambulance's choice of where I happen to be going if it's truly a life-threatening emergency. And for me, we need the help of alleviating a hospital ER so that they have time to deal with the trauma stuff, strokes and things like that. But I've been one of those people clogging up a hospital ER for something like stitches. And so for me, that's why I will be supporting this, lifting this moratorium tonight, because of wait times and our proximity to Denver. And I just think that it is not the perfect fix, but it's one that I think we should move forward with. So thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Stites.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's weird, I'm going to be real honest. I had no idea how I was going to vote on this tonight until I sat down and actually listened to everybody speak. I wanted to kind of see how the community responded to this because, I think as a council, we kind of see the need for more medical options now that Lutheran specifically has moved, but more options in that area. We've had that conversation with a lot of residents in that area as Lutherans moved out, and now they think that as they bought a house next to a hospital, that was kind of their part of their retirement, and they wanted to be closer to a hospital, or closer to medical facilities, and this will kind of give them that choice. I understand that with choice comes the opportunity for confusion, and I heard that a number of times from even people tonight, but people in my emails talking about citizens getting confused about where to go. I think with some education, I'm sure that both Intermountain and Rose will continue to do education in our community as far as what people want. I'm sure the city can step in and give some guidance as well. But if you call 911 and say, I'm having shortness of breath, or you're giving signs of a stroke or a heart attack, I'm sure they're not going to take you to the freestanding emergency room. But one way that we can make sure when you get to that emergency room that there's not 25 other people with a cut finger in your way is maybe have some competition to where those people could go to a place that's not as emergency driven. We also heard tonight, City Manager Goff talked about an investment of around $65 million into that corner on Wadsworth, and that's a pretty big investment. And that corner right now looks fairly tired. The city owns the Midas property that's going nowhere, probably not going to go anywhere for a while if we don't look at a project like this. And then, finally, Lutheran's been a great partner for the city of Wheat Ridge for a number of years, and, through Lutheran's own admission, this isn't going to hurt them. And if I thought this was going to hurt Lutheran as a partner or as a employer or as a medical care in our city, I wouldn't vote for it. But as is, it's not going to harm them. This is only going to bring in more investment, more opportunities for people to shop and go to lunch, things like that on those corners on Wadsworth. So I will be voting yes to lift the moratorium. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
7 ayes, 1 nay, motion carries.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all of the attendees tonight who came and spoke. This is the way that we do business here. We let everybody have a chance and we make a decision. So I want to thank you all. With that, we will go to agenda item number 3. Mayor Pro Tem Stites, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Bear. Council Bill number 11-2025, an ordinance amending Chapter 26 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning multi-unit residential parking requirements and making conforming amendments therewith. At issue, the ordinance amends Chapter 26 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws to update parking requirements for multi-unit residential uses to comply with state legislation and recent policy direction from the City Council. Conforming amendments are required to update definitions and terms related to residential uses.
Thank you. This will be an ordinance on first reading to set the date, time, and location for a public hearing. May I have a motion on this item, Mayor Pro Tem Stites?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve Council Bill number 11-2025, an ordinance amending Chapter 26 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning multi-unit residential parking requirements and making conforming amendments therewith on first reading, order it published, public hearing set for Monday, June 23rd, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. as a virtual meeting and in City Council chambers, and it takes immediately after final publication.
Second.
I'm sorry, who got that? Councilor Hulteen. Thank you. Would the clerk please poll the council?
All ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Thank you. We will now go to agenda item number 4. Councilor Dozman, would you please introduce this item?
Yes, thank you. Council Bill number 12-2025, an ordinance amending Section 26-502 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning procedural updates to landscaping requirements. At issue, this ordinance amends Section 26-502 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws to update landscaping requirements to correct minor discrepancies in the city's regulations and to codify a policy related to calculating maximum allowable limits of irrigated turf and non-living materials.
Thank you. This is an ordinance on first reading to set the date, time, and location for a public hearing. May I have a motion on agenda item number 4?
I move to approve Council Bill number 12-2025, an ordinance amending Section 26-502 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning procedural updates to landscaping requirements on first reading, order it published, public hearing set for Monday, June 23rd, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. as a virtual meeting and in City Council chambers, and that it takes effect immediately after final publication.
We have a motion and a second by Councilor Ohm. Would the clerk please poll the council?
All ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Thank you. We will now go to agenda item number 5. Councilor Hulteen, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you. It's my pleasure. I'd like to introduce a motion approving the selection of public art titled Fun Fungi by David Farquharson. My apologies. I know I mispronounced that. Of Far Horizon Studio LLC to be installed at the Green at 38th project site at issue. Do you want me to do it issue or are we getting a presentation on this?
We've got a presentation.
We have a presentation, yeah.
Good, because
Okay,
it's
this will
pictures.
be a motion of the council. Mr. Goff, do we have a staff presentation on this item?
We do. We're pulling up the presentation here. Give us a second.
Are you going to pull down the screen?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I thought they were pulling it up. I didn't know whether they were going to pull it down too.
Pull up and down all at the same
Okay.
time.
Let's hope it stops in time. Yeah.
Okay, I think you all met Kendall. You gonna introduce Karen? You gonna? Okay, you do it. You do
Looks
it.
like the screen is down and the presentation is up, so.
Fabulous. Mayor, members of council, I'm Karen O'Donnell, the Director of Parks and Recreation, and one of the fun parts of my job is to be the staff liaison for public art in Wheat Ridge. And I am thrilled that this evening we'll be talking to you about the public art at the Green at 38th. And I would like to introduce Kendall Peterson. She is with There Squared, and she is our public art consultant. Kendall.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Thanks for having me. What a great way to end the night, talking about mushrooms. Sorry.
Well, fun mushrooms.
Fun mushrooms. This is the fun part of your night, right? So I just want to just let you know this is what I'll talk about, and I will be very brief. So this is a public art project for the Green at 38th. I think you all know very much about this project. It is nearly complete. Is that right? And I'm really impressed with how much you've been able to fit into a really tiny little park. It's really cool. Okay. So I don't think anybody needs to know the purpose behind the project other than you have a 1% for public art, and this is a small little project. And one of the things that came up was that this project is going to be very programmed, this park will be very programmed and full of lots of furniture, site furniture, playground equipment, that kind of thing. So one of the things we talked about was making sure that the artwork really fit the site, and I think we got there. So obviously this is the plan view. We talked about multiple places along in the area so that it wouldn't just be a solitary moment, and it would be something that was discoverable as you walked into different areas of the park. We also know that you're doing the promenade, and there's a large sort of community wall that will also serve as sort of a feature of the park, which will be very visual. So we wanted to kind of avoid that area. This is our selection panel, and Rachel Hulteen, I hope you'll speak in favor a little bit later. It was finally I got to get you on one of my panels. So this is the rest of the group. We met the first, sorry. We met the first time in December. This was kind of a quicker project because we know that the project is moving right along. So this is the selection process overview. It was discussed at the May 14th Cultural Commission meeting, and it was approved unanimously. So the project has $60,000 total for artwork, and we wanted to make sure that we were engaging all ages on this project. So there will be obviously the school kids coming out into the park after school, parents picking them up, and then your events and the multi-use facet of the project. So we wanted to make sure that we were taking that into account. And we wanted to make sure it was a local artist that we were preferring to use, but we did do a call to the whole U.S. Sorry. So we had 4 semifinalists. 2 were from out of state and 2 were from from Colorado. And I'll just kind of briefly go through the proposals. The first one was Terrence Martin. And even though we had requested as somebody said, gluten-free proposal, there was a wheat element to their proposal, but it was actually really cool. People really appreciated this proposal because it involved several elements of seating and kind of site furniture. One was in you can see on the left, which was wheat for Wheat Ridge, and then there was this mountain seating arrangement that also had inlaid old images from the street grid, sort of that patchwork that is sort of the overlaying design principle for the park. And then, it just is delayed, sorry. And then also carnation seats, which were really lovely. And even though people were a little worried about the fact that there's carnations themes in a lot of your artwork already, they really appreciated how colorful and fun these were. Everybody really enjoyed this. I think that they had some worries about maintenance and update. They were worried about access and also just there's a preponderance. There's a lot of already site furniture in the area. So where we would place them and how many we would have was also part of the conversation. And Councilwoman Hulteen, please interrupt me if you have any other comments. So this is the second artist that was shortlisted. His project was sort of a mosaic, a base piece that would be a single moment with columbines. This artist is a really incredible mosaic artist, and he is out of Nevada. And you can see an example of the types of mosaic work he's done. He is a Burning Man. He's a Burning Man artist, so he makes these incredible animals and art flowers and just sort of fantastic pieces out of mosaic. We really, really love the color. We love the idea, the whimsy of these giant columbines. But I think that there was some concern because we had really directed the artist to not have one single moment. So we were talking about, could we have two? You know, could we just have smaller versions? We found ourselves sort of nickeling and diming the whole thing. So we wanted to move away from that. This artist is a Colorado-based artist, Justin Deester. His project, I think, I think people were least interested in this proposal. All of his artwork, he proposed 3 different types of arrangements of different types of letters and blocks or sort of word puzzles. So, for example, the one on the right says, "I love you," and it would be lit at night, and they would just be sculptural elements. The blocks on the left would be eventually lit at night and not movable, but you could play on them. And then this was a piece that he had proposed that would eventually have all 26 letters of the alphabet. And I think that this was something that people were really concerned about. So I think that people really appreciated his thought on this, and it was kind of pop art, but I think that they didn't really think that the sculptures were terribly interesting. So the winning proposal, and please don't go by these pictures because they are little maquettes that he made, and he put them all over his property. He's from Aurora, Colorado, and what he's proposed is a piece called Fun Guy, and this would be a collection of several mushrooms. We're not really sure how many, maybe up to 15 to 17 of these mushrooms, and they would be maybe between 2 and 3 feet high and kind of large, larger than this for sure. They would be multiple colors, multiple shapes. They would be lit at night. And one of the things that he wanted to do was also engage the kids at the school nearby and have them create backstories for each of these fungi, mushrooms. So that they would have a different story, and they would have, like, this is Uncle Joe. Maybe they would be in families. And what he's hoping to do is have these lit pieces in the planters, so at different planters spaced throughout the entire space. So they will be lit. This is an example of his past work. So he knows what he's talking about. These are all constructed of really bulletproof kind of metal construction. They will not be a maintenance burden. The lighting is fairly inexpensive, and it is not, it's LED lights, so it'll be easy to install and fix if we need to. And these are just some of the other facts around it. People really loved this idea of creating this kind of almost like an atmosphere, and it will have like a winter and a summer kind of component. When snow falls on it, they will still be lit. You'll be able to kind of see the colors popping up at like you would actually a mushroom kind of popping up through the snow, or as the spring goes, and it'll just give a really nice, colorful sort of. Somebody likened it to the Chihuly exhibit at the Denver Botanic Gardens when they had those big, colorful glass art throughout the gardens. And that was the hope, is that this will be kind of a small-scale version of that. So we had unanimous approval for this from the group, the selection group, and I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Let me see. I have no one from the public signed up to speak, so we'll go to questions from council. Anybody have any questions? Councilor Hulteen.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. I just, first of all, want to thank, it was a dream team of an art selection committee. We had Director O'Donnell, and we had Patrick, and just like really thoughtful, engaged people. And at the very beginning, in the first meeting, we really did talk about just how many large sculptural elements already existed. And so a lot of times when we're doing a public art selection, we're really looking for some sort of monumental piece that's really going to anchor the public space or the park and really draw a lot of attention to it. And this was just a really unique process because we, as a selection committee, identified early on that actually creating a sense of discovery and really scaling it for kids is a unique opportunity at this park, and for maybe it to have a different interaction element to it every time you came. And so, as Kendall was saying, like it'll have a different sort of form in the winter and in the summer. And so this really was unanimously everybody's choice. Like there was just not a lot of hesitation. The things I personally really love about it is, first of all, like mushrooms are like a connected network, and nothing represents community more than, like, community is like an invisible connected network. So when we see mushrooms coming up, they're actually representing something that we can't see but is like connected all around us. So I think of mushrooms as being really emblematic of what community is. I also think they look like fun little like fairy houses. So I really can imagine like kids finding them playful. And I love that there's going to be a bunch of them, and they can like show up in different places throughout the park. So it's not just in one place. And then my secret thing that I love the most about it, I unfortunately was not there the night the artist presented. So my enthusiasm had to be conveyed via email. But one of the things I shared with Patrick is that because of how these sculptures are like created, and we saw the little mini prototypes, is I could see a partnership with the artist in which these mushrooms escape the green and do things like show up in our community gardens and show up along businesses on 38th Avenue. So these mushrooms could actually like really become iconic and something that you're not just discovering at 38th Avenue, but like our businesses and community members. We could actually have a deeper partnership with this artist. So that's like a little secret vision project I have on the side that we'll talk about later. Anyway, I really hope you'll vote to support this. Like we just, as a committee, like just without hesitation, he was the last presentation, and it just was enthusiastically supported by all of us. So so I'm asking for your support tonight, and I hope if you haven't had a chance already, there's not a lot for those of you stepping off, but supporting these art selection is just the greatest, the most fun conversations we have in the city. So it was so fun. It was so fun. All right, that's all I got to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Counselor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. So I don't know if I saw, but do you have an idea like what the height is on these? Like just an approximate?
We're not sure. So one of the things that you get when you get site-specific work is you kind of wait to make that final determination and when you actually go to the site. So actually, one of the things that we're trying to figure out right now is possibly which planters they'll be in, how high those planters are, how far away they'll be from places where people sit, that kind of thing. So we're working through that, but they could be up to, I think he said maybe up to 3 feet, but that would be depending on where, and 3 feet is what, I'm 6 feet, so half of my height. And you know, some of them are going to be kind of tall and skinny, and some of them will be shorter and flatter, like all mushrooms you've seen. So we don't know yet. But what we will do is make sure that they're all engineered and make sure that they have a base so that they can't be tampered with and that kind of thing. So it could be that they're on a single base, that they'll be placed like that. But just, you know, wondering if that your question is about maintenance and durability.
Yeah, sometimes my questions are not, I'm not a fun guy.
It's
So I definitely, I know that there'll be some thoughtful process of fabrication. So because it's going to be a play area, so
Absolutely.
so no sharp edges.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And then I have no objection to varying heights. In fact, I could see some that'd be a little bit taller. I know that there's going to be different heights of planters. I think it would be great if some of them were in a planter where we would have some ADA accessibility and it felt appropriate, where if there's light, it's not right in the person's eye, but there could be a large variety on heights and different colors. So it seems very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And just so you know, this is a sort of the diagram that he's created, but everything will be engineered and the edges will be that, what he does is he bends the steel back. So there's no hard edges anywhere or sharp edges anywhere.
Counselor Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to be an art critic at one point, and then I decided it wasn't for me. So my question it was already asked about durability and the fact that we're talking about a park. There will be a lot of abuse, and it sounds like what's being proposed is something that will stand up. I guess the first question is that the renderings we've seen so far, to me, look like little multicolored beach umbrellas. And do we have any sort of assurance that they will closely or even like kind of adjacent to what a mushroom actually looks like?
Absolutely. I will make sure of it. Yeah, he admitted that his samples looked a little bit like the umbrellas that you get in a pina colada.
tiki drink, yes.
Yeah.
I've had one.
So he admitted that, but he was just kind of having fun making them, but they will actually look like mushrooms. The only thing that might look slightly less than a mushroom is the stem. So I think that when he creates them, he'll make sure that all of his pieces are quite abstract. If you look at the piece that's on the screen, they're sort of abstracted, so it won't be, a facsimile of a mushroom, but it'll be sort of the essence of a mushroom, I think.
So what we're doing tonight is approving funding of this project.
Correct.
It has already been reviewed and approved by the committee.
Correct.
Getting back to that question though, if what the final renderings look like are unsatisfactory, do we have an out on the agreement?
Yes, absolutely. So we will have a process. Every process that we do, every contract we do has a final design approval. If it doesn't look like what Karen and Patrick and whoever else is, or if it has a significant change from what we thought we would be getting, we will come back and have to reapprove it and do design development to make it look like what we want it to do. Yes, we do have recourse.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Counselor Snell.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there a place that we can go and see his current work, like where this picture's taken?
That's a great question. I can find that out and get back to you. Because I think that the pieces that he was showing, these are his most recent pieces. They may be up in, I want to say Greeley, but I can have some samples of his artwork and send them to you all if you like.
Thank you. That's great.
Thank you. And I had a couple of questions. Did he talk about material selection?
Yeah, so he's going to be using the same material that he's been using with his past sculptures, most likely. And it depends on the size of the sculpture, what gauge steel he's using, but it's going to be a painted steel. It's not going to be powder coated because powder coat doesn't last as long as painted steel. And that makes it so it's easy to fix. Like if something gets dinged or tagged or somebody puts a sticker on it, it's just really easy to paint it. So the materials will be very similar to that mesh that you see on the picture. And then he'll fold the bottoms up and then it'll be either a stainless or some sort of non-corrodable steel thing. And all of the lighting, it will be kind of a ring light at the top and it'll be inserted so that it can't be removed and the wiring will go through the stem and then there will be valid. All of that will be engineered.
Okay. And then it would be on probably a concrete base or some base
Correct.
that is in
Correct.
in the
All of
thing.
that will be engineered so that
Okay.
it's.
And then his proposal includes the wiring and the electrical?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
What the city will be doing is, and Karen, you'll have to, I think we talked about that there will be stub ups or whatever for in some of the planters possibly. So I think we've hit it at almost the right time to be able to, as the electrical is, just provide a place where he can then run his electrical from. So apparently that is an option still, that's still on the table.
Yeah, if I can speak on that, we did have the artists come out to meet with the project team just to kind of find locations and make sure that we didn't miss the mark on the electrical component. He's not under contract yet until after this meeting, and he was well aware of that, but he was willing to come and meet with us so that we could make sure the electrical was included and we didn't pass that point in the project timeline.
So we would coordinate the underground electrical conduit installation and the
Yep.
wiring and the
Part of
final
the project.
connections and.
Yep.
And would these, are these going to be controlled, do you think, on a timer or some other automatic device?
Yeah, and it'll be up to you all to figure out what the timing is on that. I know Karen is the head of parks. You get to decide if it stays on, and I don't know what the timing will be, but of course, that will be turned off at a certain point when the park is closed.
Okay, are there any more questions before I ask for a motion? Councilor Hulteen, may I have a motion on item number 5?
You can, but I got so engrossed in the conversation, I closed my computer, so give me just a second. Sorry.
Begins with I move.
Yeah, I know, I just have to find it here. Okay. I move to approve the selection of public art titled Fun Fun Fungi by David Farquharson of Far Horizon Studios LLC to be installed at the Green at 38th Project.
We have a motion and a second by Councilor Ohm. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council?
All ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
your
much.
presentation. Okay, we are back now to our agenda. I believe the next thing we're going to do is to go to City Manager's Matters. Mr. Dahl.
Nothing this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much. City Attorney's Matters, Mr. Dahl.
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Thank you so much. We'll go to Elected Officials Matters and start with Councilor Hulteen.
Great, thank you, Mayor. I've got a couple of things. So first of all, I just wanted to share that we've been having a discussion here about a stormwater fee, and that is something that will be we've discussed and will be discussing. I reached out to City Manager Goff last week to ask to also explore looking at the possibility of an infrastructure fee that would combine both stormwater as well as some of our surface street treatments that are being funded principally either through 2J or transfers from the general fund for CIP. So I just wanted to share that that is something that we'll be also taking a look at as we look at this. Other things on my little researchy projects recently, there is, we were in here on April 28th to talk about the Lutheran rezoning and the Lutheran Legacy Campus rezoning. And I've heard I heard that night, and I've heard several times since that the people who showed up who were in opposition were in the majority of comments we heard that night. And I actually went through and re-listened to them, and I tagged, who took what position. I paid attention to were they a neighbor, like Heritage Family. And between online comments and people in person, we had 52 people speak that night, and we had 27 people speaking in favor of the project. So, and I even distinguished between people who said no and people who were just expressing concerns around a couple elements and asking us to make sure that we're being good governors of those moving forward. So technically only 11 people took a specific no position. So I just want to, false narratives in our community can spread like wildfire. So I'm happy to share my spreadsheet. I also catalog specifically the concerns and reasons for support people had. So if that is helpful for anyone moving forward, I'm happy to share that. But I just want to let people know I did the math, and we in fact had a majority of people expressing support for that moving forward. Lastly, I realize I'm twice as old as all of the officers that were sworn in tonight, so feeling that. And I just want to just thank Councilor Snell and the recognition of the LGBTQI plus community. I think sometimes hearing, how being, having an identity that, falls in that beautiful alphabet, it can be really hard on specific individuals, and there's mental health issues, and there's access to societal support and freedoms. And these are our neighbors. And I just really appreciate how far we've come as a city and as a community, and in a time where there's a lot of pushback on embracing that openly, that we're still stepping in and saying that these are our neighbors and we care about them, and they're their identities are a part of our identities. So I'm just grateful we did that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Snell.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. I'll be brief. I never thought I would be able to quote Alice Cooper on the dais, but school's out for the summer. So please, I'm saying that to just be aware of lots of kiddos out on their bikes now that it's stopped raining. Lots of kiddos walking, and just please drive with care around our city. Another thing, our neighbors to the south, Edgewater, just celebrated their 6th Pride celebration this past weekend. I was a part of that. Great parade, excellent attendance. It grows every year. This year, our IDEA committee had a presence there. We had a table. Big thanks to the volunteers from our committee that were there staffing the table. We engaged about 150 folks that specifically wanted to talk about City of Wheat Ridge and what we're doing, and really a lot of great, support from those folks. So again, thank you to those volunteers for being there, and just congrats to Edgewater for a great parade. And to continue that, we have a couple of Pride things happening in Wheat Ridge. June 21st, Clancy's is holding a Pride celebration all day. It's all ages. There will be some reading time, book time. There will be some art projects. Our IDEA committee will be there and tabling and talking about our committee. There will be a couple of different musical performers from the community as well. And then on Sunday, the 22nd at Panorama Park, we're having a Pride picnic. So that is open to everyone. We hope everyone will come join us. It's just come have a hamburger and talk and play some games and just celebrate Pride. So those are the things I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Counselor Dozman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, school is definitely out for the summer, and my younger son is very much enjoying the Wheat Ridge Sun Camp. I think it's wonderful to have that amenity in our community, and really appreciate that he's enjoying it so much. And also wanted to let everyone know about Local Works Block Party on 38th Avenue coming up this Saturday, June 14th from 2 to 6 p.m. at none other than Wheat Ridge Lanes. So come out and have a good time and celebrate our community. And then Ridge Fest is right around the corner, coming up on June 28th at Anderson Park again this year from 2 to 8 p.m. So looking forward to being able to walk there and enjoy Anderson Park and all that Local Works brings to the community.
Excellent. Thank you. Counselor Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do have to say that the first week of the month generally tends to be busy, but this last week was exceptionally busy. We had the event at Local Works on Tuesday that was very, very well attended. I joined the mayor on Wednesday, and not going to take your thunder, about a ribbon cutting. And then Wednesday evening was a neighborhood forum that was hosted by the Foothills Regional Housing folks regarding the property up at Ridge and Miller. And now that Foothills Regional Housing is the property owner out there, they've begun the process of demolishing the buildings that are already there, the abandoned buildings that have been abandoned for a long time, and remediating the site, and then eventually working on a plan to develop that site into an affordable housing that has a connection with the community, with Red Rocks Community College. Very interesting evening and some very good discussion. On Thursday night, I joined several members of the council at the Eagle Awards downtown, recognizing Foothills Regional Housing for the good work they're doing. And then finally, looking ahead at this week, I understand this Saturday is the president's birthday, but I think it's more important for me anyway to talk about what the significance of June 14th is. June 14th is Flag Day. It's observed throughout the United States. It serves as an occasion to honor the history, significance, and symbolism of the American flag as a symbol of freedom, unity, and national pride. Flag Day is a holiday that simply celebrates the adoption of the national flag. The day also honors the principles of freedom, unity, and patriotism. It should be noted that the stars on the flag represent 50 states, and the stripes signify the original 13 colonies. The colors have meaning as well. Red symbolizes hardiness and valor. White symbolizes integrity and independence, and blue represents vigilance, perseverance, and justice. A few years ago, a 7th grader from Adel, Wisconsin, wrote that the American flag represents unity. We are one nation, united by our similarities and our differences. We support people in our communities in times of need, and we cheer them on in times of achievement. For me, flying the flag, whether it is on Flag Day, Independence Day, or another national holiday, is not a political statement. For me, flying the American flag on those special days says that that is an American. I believe in those values and in the strength of our communities. For me, the flag is a symbol of our freedom, our unity, and our liberty as individuals and as citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rome.
Thank you, Mayor. Saturday, Councilmember Hulteen and I had our district meeting, and we were fortunate to have the developer EX5 join us, and I had seen the map before, but we were fortunate to sit at the table and really take a good hard look. And Councilmember Hulteen brought up a good point of connecting the Rocky Mountain ditch to that street, and which the developer said, I'm already working on with staff on that. So thank you, staff, and we had a good conversation. And then we also had we invited the Wheat Ridge Police Department. Sergeant Gross was there talking about the photo radar, and so we had some questions about that, and everybody's starting to get aware what's going on, and just encourage everybody to be aware, slow down, so we have some safe drives. That's all I got.
Very good. Councilor Weaver.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to cordially invite all of you to walk goats with me on June 28th at 9 o'clock in the morning from Prospect Valley Elementary down 32nd Avenue to Lewis Meadows. So show up, wear your Herd Nerd shirt if you have it. If you need one, you know who to contact about that. That would be me. But it would be really fun. I know the mayor's coming. I know the city manager's coming. I know the head of Park and Rec is coming. So everyone's going to be there. So you all should be there too. And you don't have to walk a goat if you don't want a goat. I won't, except for the city manager. He will be getting a goat for sure. Thank you.
Just come on.
You can find out from Park and Rec because they're going to be posting some information about that, right? Great, thanks.
We'll just come on down. Councilor Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a quick question for Director O'Donnell. Ms. Clark brought up the point that when she was taking the survey for the Anderson Pool that it glitched out on her. And so I just want to make sure that we have our IT team just double check that that was a not every time and maybe just a one-off time.
Yes, noted. And Brandon Altenberg was online at that part of the meeting, and he's the one that put up the survey, so he's going to double check on that for me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Stites.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had the privilege of dropping my son off this morning at Wheat Ridge High School to do the Wheat Ridge High School basketball camp with Coach Dowd, who's the younger Coach Dowd, but Coach Tom Dowd, who's been at Wheat Ridge High School for a little over 20 years, retired recently, but was elected to the Colorado High School Sports Hall of Fame last week for coaching. So big ups to him. He's been a basketball coach at Wheat Ridge High School for a number of years. He was my freshman football coach when I was there at Wheat Ridge over 20 years ago now. So fantastic educator in our community, lives in District 3. So big shout out to him. I also want to give a big shout out to Local Works and the city of Wheat Ridge for zones and calzones, or calzones and zones, whatever it was last week. That was a great idea. It was a lot of fun. Lauren Mikulak, as always, those of us who have heard her speak about specifically about the zoning at the Lutheran campus, she did a phenomenal job, as did Chris Elliott with E5X, answered all the community questions and really did a phenomenal job. If you missed them at either that event or the one in District 2. This Thursday, Councilor Weaver and I will be hosting our District 3 meeting. It'll be at the Wheat Ridge Rec Center. It's from 6:30 to 8 o'clock. We'll be going over all things Wheat Ridge, all things District 3, and then Chris Elliott from E5X will be presenting again to give everybody an opportunity to see and know what's going on. Last week, I also had the opportunity to join Councilor Ohm, Councilor Larson, the mayor, Councilor Hulteen, and myself the city manager was good enough to give me the certificate, but we were nominated as a city for our affordable housing plan for an Eagle Award. Our city, and I think our councilors will agree, we've done a phenomenal job leading the way in this. So unfortunately, we didn't win, but we were up against a lot of fantastic programs. Foothills Regional Housing did win for the Ives project, which is at 44th and Wadsworth. They got a really cool eagle statue, which some of us got to touch and take pictures with, and that was pretty cool as well. So big shout out to them. And, you know, we've heard about business a lot in our community recently, and you know, the more we can get out and support those local businesses. We've got Father's Day coming up, so if you can find something in Wheat Ridge for your father, find it and buy it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, most of my thunder is already stolen, so I'll just re-up a couple of things. I want to congratulate Helping Paws Animal Hospital at 39th and Wadsworth. We did a ribbon cutting for them and helped them celebrate their grand opening. Great looking hospital for dogs and cats and your furry friends. So I hope you'll have an opportunity to help them out. Also want to congratulate Foothills Regional Housing. Mayor Pro Tem Stites talked about that. Great event on Thursday night where they won the Eagle Award for their Ives project, and the city was recognized with the certificate that we got, and for our affordable housing program. So a lot's going on in our city. School is out. I think it's fun till my daddy takes my T-Bird away or something like that. So anyway, I hope everyone will get in their T-Bird and drive very slowly and carefully around our city. We've got lots of kids and folks out on walks and walking their dogs and walking their baby strollers. So be careful and enjoy just kind of a nice stroll rolling through our city. So anyway, we will be back here next week for a study session at 6:30, and I hope everyone will join us at that time. Thanks to all the folks who tuned in tonight and joined us here in Council Chamber. We always appreciate you being here and giving us your thoughts on what we do and how we can make our city even a better place to live. So if there's no more business to come before council, we will stand adjourned, and thank you all.